Hello crafty friends! Today we are making a fabulous thank you card. It comes from this Painted Harvest stamp set that was in the holiday catalog from Stampin' Up. When I saw this beautiful sunflower pattern, I absolutely had to have it, as just sunflowers are so happy and cheerful, and around here in the Pacific Northwest at this time of year it is cloudy and rainy much of the time, so need a little bit of sunshine in my life. So today's card uses this stamp set as well as the thank you stamp from this little stamp set that was part of last year's Paper Pumpkin from October. I was not a Paper Pumpkin subscriber. I actually went out and bought it on eBay when I saw the absolutely amazing envelopes that came from this set. It had this just gorgeous sweater pattern in an orange color, and this great little stamp set, as well as this crackly stuff, which is pretty cool. I couldn't find a thank you that I liked. I'm sure I have some somewhere, but I just chose to use this set. I am sure you can find a nice sized thank you that's not too large and is all straight in a row. If you took a look at my last video, or my last blog post, which I'll put down in the video notes, I went through a series of different color combinations using the sunflowers from the Painted Harvest stamp set, and tried out a whole bunch of different color ink combinations for the sunflower, different combinations for the acorn, for the leaves, and I decided that I really liked the Daffodil Delight and Crushed Curry, and so this stamp set is going to use that combination. I also liked the Old Olive for the leaves and Chocolate Chip for the center of the sunflower. This is a standard 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card with an outside and an inside cut 1/4 short in each dimension. I also had a scrap of the very vanilla, and this is about 5/8 of an inch, so this is 7/8 of an inch wide, to be able to have a little bit 1/8 of an inch border all around, and that's what we'll be stamping our thank you on the outside of the card. So, quick little card, and these cards are actually the basis for another video that I'll be posting shortly, and this is what goes inside of that beautiful box of thank you cards, and that makes an awesome gift for family and friends when you just have somebody you don't really know what to get for them. Everybody can always use thank you cards, and what better than happy sunny sunflowers. So let's get started on the outside panel. I'm going to set the base aside as well as the interior aside, and we'll come to those later. So for this set, we'll be using the center. We will be using the large, more solid piece will be the Daffodil Delight, and the petally piece will be the Crushed Curry. And then of the leaves, even though I bought the punch that was part of the bundle, I actually kind of like this ferny leaf better, and I like the ferny leaf, just the solid part, not the veins for the inside. So let's set that aside and get started on stamping. Now, you can notice a bunch of stuff here on my craft mat. And these are different measurements and stuff, so I don't want to get that messed up. That's actually how I was designing some of my upcoming posts. So I'm going to stamp on the back of this privacy notice from an insurance company. And what great way to recycle your junk mail. You can see I've used this ink pad quite a bit because you can actually see the outline from the sunflower on there. So maybe we'll use this side of the ink pad. Now the first time that I stamp, I always like to do one stamp just to understand exactly where, to prime the stamp, to make sure the ink gets in there really well, to make sure that it's on the block well enough. And so we will just do this, stamp it on the scratch paper. And you can see that this has kind of a little bit of some voids in the stamp, and at first I thought that was me doing something wrong. However, that stamp is actually designed that way. It's a feature, not a defect. Because this is a polymer stamp, I am going to stamp on my stamping pad here to make sure that we have good contact between the stamp and the paper. This stamp set doesn't really have a spot where it obviously lines up. I don't think that there's a right or wrong way, a direction on this that you're supposed to stamp. Maybe there's a little bit of an indent here, and there's a little bit of an indent here. I don't know if you can see that. And so since that's facing this way, I will always have that facing down when I'm stamping, so that with this stamp I can align it similarly. I'm actually going to turn the cardstock so that it's not always in the same direction. And I want at least one to be fully on the page. Alright, that's it for that stamp. Now we had that on the thumb side, so I will make sure that this stamp also aligns with that lump on the thumb side. Doesn't need to be real exact. However, when you stamp the brown piece, it actually makes it a little bit easier. This is crushed curry. And if you're here in the kitchen with me, it's actually what I'm making for dinner tonight. Now the one thing that I did learn about this stamp set is when you first stamp it, it just doesn't look very good. I was kind of disappointed, and I learned you just have to have a little bit of patience. And as the ink melts into the paper, all of a sudden it starts to look great. Alright, now we're going to use some chocolate chip ink to stamp the centers. Now, I don't think that there's really any right or wrong way, although it does seem like there's a little bit of a ridge over here on this side, and there's a little bit of a gap over there. That it looks like that might actually line up very nicely with that. Now, this one is a little trickier because you really do have to make sure that you line that up correctly, because it is obvious when it's not in the right position. And because this is such a small stamp, it's easy to get ink all over your stamping block. Okay, now to stamp the leaf. So this is going to be an old olive, and when I was doing some practice runs, I realized that I really like the look of a second generation stamp. We use Stamp Off first, and that makes this piece of scrap paper all the more important, is to be able to make sure that you get a little bit of ink taken off with each stamp. It really allows the sunflower to really shine through as your main focal point. You have to pay attention because it's really easy to accidentally stamp it without stamping off first. And sometimes you just need to know when to stop. And that's almost as important of a design principle as anything else. Okay, so that's it for this. We will take this panel and mount it onto a piece of Always Artichoke cardstock. It's folded in half, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now these go so quickly. It's easy to make, you know, a box of 6 or 8 of them really quick. So mount this. Now, you can do this card either horizontally or vertically. I'm going to do it horizontally, which is why I put the 2 flowers at the top. If I was going to do it vertical, I probably would have spun it around so that the greeting could go here and this flower would have been over here. So now, let's do the greeting. For the greeting, I'm going to use just the plain thank you. And I'm going to stamp that in the chocolate chip ink. Now, from a bunch of card making, I had a bunch of scraps of both the Always Artichoke as well as the Very Vanilla cardstock left. So I'm just going to take this scrap, which is 5/8 of an inch by 2.5 inches. I'm going to make sure that I line up my thank you so that it's nice and straight on the block. And you'll notice that I put the stamp way up at the top. That way I don't get my fingers in the ink. Stamp it off, prime the stamp. And then I want to put a tail on the end of this, so I'm going to actually stamp this a little bit closer to the left side, not right in the middle, like you would think. Now before I mount it onto the green, I'm going to cut the tail, and that way when I mount it on the green, I'll know exactly where to cut the green piece to match. Now these scissors are not the best scissors to be doing this. I have a pair of fine detail scissors, but I have no idea where they are. I don't know what happened to them. I had them at one point, but I was cutting cockleburrs out of my dog after she got into trouble at the park, and I don't know what happened to them. There we go. And since this is going to go this way, I'm actually going to put this right here in the middle. Normally I would raise it up, however I'm just going to use my tape runner and affix it since I want these to be able to go through the mail easily without having to worry about whether or not it makes the card too thick. Now, this card, unlike a lot of cards that you see people make, will actually have a greeting on the inside. And the stamp set just had an absolutely wonderful greeting. Your kindness means so much, more than you will ever know. And I thought that that was just perfect for the inside of a thank you card. I'm going to leave it a little bit higher rather than centered vertically because I want to be able to leave some room in case the recipient of this card wants to write their own note down below. And if you had it centered, then that would leave not a lot of room down below to be able to put in your own greeting. I'm also going to use the chocolate chip on this as well. Now if I were doing a box of these, I would actually leave some with the inside blank and some with the sentiment on the inside. And that way the recipient would be able to use the insides for whatever they want. And in real time, with no zoom or fast forward, there you have it. A very fast, beautiful little thank you card. Now, check back on our channel here over the next couple weeks. I'm going to actually have a couple more projects using this stamp set, including our very next video, which will be taking this very simple design and ramping it up a couple notches. So, have a great day. Come back and visit again. Subscribe for more videos, and give us a thumbs up if you like our video. Thank you.